Breaking overnight, hundreds of protesters marching in the streets of Hope. This demonstration was a response.
The images eventually became very similar to what we saw last year.
A clear message of breaking overnight, hundreds of protesters marching in the streets of Hope. This demonstration was a response.
The images eventually became very similar to what we saw last year.
A clear message of
Right. Real talk. Back to the basics.
But so let me ask y'all this then.
Shelter,
So,
food, air.
when you thought about, like, we saw those numbers start in New York like that, and then it quickly, like, spread. It wasn't just New York. Then we saw California,
Right.
was the next kind of epicenter, if
Yep.
you will. And we know LA area, that was like a huge one. But the Bay Area, and I think this is one of the benefits sometimes living in California in the Bay Area because of our kind of forward thinking in certain ways. We try to stay ahead of it in terms of, I think some of the leadership statewide in terms of doing things, but yet we still saw it. And I think about, like, my neighborhood, living in Oakland and, having relatives in San Francisco and what that looked like for us. And there was really nothing coming out to help us.
Sure.
Right? Like,
sure.
and so I mean, I'm trying to understand, like, what did we miss as a community around that? What was happening?
Real said. What did we miss?
What and what are we still missing to a degree? Because though, and we'll talk about maybe numbers of dip, but at that time, like, what was happening? What do you think was happening for us then in terms of, like, was it real?
That's what I was about to say. For my age group, I would say I'm 28, but I would say people that was around my age in the 20s, we for sure thought this was like a hoax. It was fake. It was like, this can't be real. Then we got our president Trump is on here talking about no mask and it's not real. But then, like you said, we see the numbers. I think that they were also trying to show the numbers to also push the agenda for the vaccine. And for a minute, that's why a lot of people in my age group was like, oh, we're not getting the vaccine. We're not doing the vaccine because it's like this all just came out of nowhere. Then you got a vaccine that. How did you test the vaccine, and then you want us to just take this? It's like we kind of like test dummies in a way.
Right.
So I think that
Our
it was
age
more so
group
like,
wasn't really up on the news.
Yeah, we weren't.
We weren't really. I think based on my friends that I know, maybe say there's 5 of us, only one's watching the news.
Got it.
Or one's keeping up with the
with the numbers and what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
You just looking at it from a social media standpoint.
Yeah,
we just got social media on it.
And that's news, though, right?
It is,
your
though.
platform.
It is, though.
Yeah.
And talking to some of the older folks in the community, in our communities, and again, thinking about San Francisco, there was that point of denial, and there was a point of this is made up, and there was also a point of remember our history, as they would say. So there was a lot of, man, you don't need exactly. That whole thing impacted. So people decided, Tuskegee all over again. This is all nonsense.
They're trying to stick us. They just trying to get us. They trying to get us out of here.
Yeah.
Right.
For me, it's like, even with the information, with the numbers, I always say, how do you know that you know, right? So if I'm not a big news guy, right? My wife is. She's pretty much my news feed. But it's like, how do you know that you know? We have these numbers. We got COVID. We got a vaccination. We got a booster. And you bring it all together, and it's science. So for me, when I look at science is a question. It's a hypothesis.
Wow.
There's never an answer.
I told some students that yesterday. That's beautiful. That's real.
It's not an
It's
answer.
a question.
So it is an experiment, right? But the experiment may have a good outcome, or it may have a bad outcome.
Yeah. Sure.
Right? But at the end of the day, how do you know what you know? So for me, it had, like your 5, it had to hit somebody that I know. Somebody had to tell me, hey, bro, I got COVID.
I got it.
Exactly.
You know,
and
that's
I'm
when we
like,
start taking it
really
serious.
oh, okay,
really.
like I really need to wear my mask like all the time, you know? Yeah. So that's how I knew, like, you know, okay, it's real because somebody I know
Yeah.
that I trust told me
Got it.
I got
That
COVID, I
makes it
lost my
real.
taste, I
And
lost my
told you it's no
sound.
joke, right.
Yeah, I can't see or I damn near died. You
Yeah,
know, I got a
yeah.
thing in my
Breathing,
neck.
right.
Yeah, you know, so I seen it on social media. One of my good friends was on social media with the whole thing in her throat. So I was like, oh, this shit is.
This is real.
Yeah, no, it's
like-
real. It's real.
So
That's a great
you
point.
said science is
It's a question.
It's a question,
Yeah.
but you don't look at it just science by itself. You got to link it
Correct.
to math,
Correct.
right? So
Yeah.
it's the science
Yeah.
is the, but when the math tells you the story, then that for me, that was like, okay, let me see what the numbers look like.
Yeah. But you're an analytical guy. You're a numbers guy, right? I'm assuming.
Right.
So that's your language.
Yeah, math is
Right?
a language,
That math is
universal
your
language, right?
So for those who don't speak math
And language.
or
yeah.
understand math, how do they know? Right? So I think it's got to come in different forms. For me, it was relational, right? For you, it was social media.
Yeah.
For you, it was the numbers, right? For you, it was the school getting shut down.
right.
So all these different variables come in, and now we like, oh, okay,
It's real.
it's real.
We kind of cobble together and
Yeah.
understand it.
But let me ask you something. I'm gonna come back to
That's
something you guys said, particularly for your age group.
Yeah.
Why didn't you believe it? and I mean, you know, I get we can talk about Tuskegee, that
Yeah.
always comes up,
right,
right?
Always.
right.
But what about it was not believable?
Two things. Not really two things because they blend together, but I think one, we had someone in office we didn't trust just off the jump.
Okay.
Two, we don't trust politicians at all.
Right.
Not just our age group, but our people. Let's just be honest. And just the government as a whole, we've always kind of been jaded towards like, well, we don't believe in the media too.
It's true. Absolutely.
You know what
You're
I
right,
mean?
on all accounts.
So that's
You're
kind of answers that. That's kind of why. But then like the numbers, and also a part of our age group, we listen to a lot of podcasts on YouTube, so forth. And on one podcast, Elon Musk, we tend to trust him, our age group, because I don't know, that's just kind of towards us.
Absolutely.
He was saying, well, if you get bit by a shark and die, then all of a sudden you have COVID, they're going to count you as COVID. So we took that quote as, oh, we're not even, these numbers, we shouldn't believe all this. We're going to be unmasked and we still need to party and do our thing. That's kind of why, you know?
I think it was. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna
Go
answer-
ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. I just think that just how immediate things just happened. It was just so. It was just so
I
fast
agree.
paced and just how
I
everything
agree.
just came. It was like, what? Hold on, like, like I said, it's going to immediately remind you of a Tuskegee type of experiment because it's like this is just out of nowhere. I mean,
I appreciate
like
you
you-
admitting that.
Yeah, but then-
you
but-
weren't the only one thinking
but then
that way.
I was like D said, you know, like, hey, it took me to know somebody or see somebody. I was like, hey, man, this ain't no joke. To be like, oh, this is real, like, you know. So I just think that it was just the immediate how immediate things kind of happened was the reason why I feel like I didn't really trust or believe what was going on.
Makes sense.
Too quick. Tim, you want to add something?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna ask a question relative to how much attention did you think, not just you guys, because you guys paid attention, but generally for your generation, given social media,
Yeah.
and next thing you know, you're watching this news cycle,
Yeah.
but this challenge comes up, or this other thing comes up, or some TikTok comes up.
Yeah.
How much attention do you think a lot of the young folks pay to it, in general?
Less, as a collective group, less than 50%, you know, I would say.
Okay.
I would say less, unless it's literally on Instagram from Complex or, you know, some source, some reliable source on Instagram. I'd say we're not
Even
tuning
like
in
part-
to CNN.
My bad, I didn't cut you off, but even like parties and stuff like that, it's like people were still going and people were still.
Yeah,
doing-
that's what I
It wasn't
mean,
until
yeah,
it wasn't
yeah.
until you be like, oh, you heard about you went to this party last week, 30 people just tested
What
positive
they
COVID.
call them, the spreaders?
Yeah, the spreader. Yeah, the spreader. Yeah, you're a spreader, right?
Super spreader.
So
Yeah.
that was othering people right away.
So then now when you hear that, you're like, oh, well, I'm not going to the next party. I'm not doing that. Yeah, I just missed the wave. Oh, okay, I guess, I'm cool.
Yeah, I'm
And
cool
you said
on
that?
that.
Yeah.
Did you really say that?
Yeah, I wasn't really going out to parties and stuff like that during the COVID, honestly.
That's good business.
It depends on who you party
Is
with.
it still here? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
It's still here.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
assuming.
It's still here.
They just said we got
It's
two
still here.
waves. We were just talking about that. Two more new waves just came in.
There's a new variant and all this, but then it's also kind of society. We're kind of conditioned, like, all right, well,
So
here
let
we
me
go.
Well, what about this then? So if we say one is it is still here, and we can talk about how it's still here and what's happening with it. But my question that comes up is like, when it did happen and continues to happen, our folks, like whether we talking about heart disease, diabetes, hypertension,
Right, get
we
around
can
it.
keep going. Whatever it is, we lead. And let's be clear. Over the last 2 years, the data shows that COVID is probably the number 3 killer, only behind cancer and heart disease in this country, right? And so if that's the case, and we are like getting it at astronomical rates, more than anybody else.
All 3 of them.
Well, all 3 of them.
Yeah. Wow.
Like, where does it come for us to say, like, you know, that this? He got to smoke as he smokes. Hey, it is, but
Trade-offs.
I think I know where you're going with this. Let me answer. So I just turned 45, and Kaiser sent me a note and said I need to give them a stool sample for colon.
Sure. I'm 52.
And I need
I've
to
got
come
that.
in
Yeah.
to give
when I
them
was that age.
do the blood.
Sure.
For
It's important.
What's the other one? For your
Hypertension.
penis. What's the cancer thing your ball?
Prostate cancer.
Testicular cancer.
Testicular
Okay.
cancer, right? The two that kind of that run high.
Right.
High
That's
in
right.
us.
Early testing.
So I was like, man, first I was like, man, I'm only 45 years old. What they talking about? But I immediately, it's pride, right? Especially as black men.
Right. Absolutely.
Like, I got a little cold. I'm gonna beat this.
cool,
I just hurt my foot. I ain't going to the doctor to get this checked out.
Sure.
You know,
Right.
I'm gonna
That's
pull
true.
up-
What y'all talking about?
I'm gonna spat this thing up. Because I think we're so trained in this is manhood for us.
Right.
Right? Our manhood is so physical. You know, it may stem back to slavery, you know,
Sure
from
does.
your body
Yeah.
and you know,
Sure does.
you
You're
know,
right.
being a stallion. Like
Yeah, that's right.
This is me. You
Yeah.
know, I can handle this so we don't go. We think we can defeat and we don't need the aid of medicine.
It was a scarcity in our own background too. You mentioned that word earlier, and it's really stuck with me.
Yeah, for sure.
Our families didn't go to the doctor for everything. We had all these home remedies. My mom thought cod liver oil, you'll be fine.
Yeah,
Every
put some tussin
morning.
on it.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
My stepdad had even wilder notions of what health was, but you absolutely.
But also, I
right about
do believe it's a social economical component too, because education is a tool that we tend to don't have high access to, in growing up, depending on where you grew up at.
Correct.
And the more you're educated about it, the more you're more willing to maybe explore a little bit more. To the uneducated, we just go. You go with what you know. This is what my granddaddy did. His great granny did. He didn't go, so why would I go? But I really had to tell myself to get this stool sample, and I got to go into the lab and give my blood.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it.
that. Right.
I feel good,
Yeah.
but I'm going to do it because I trust the numbers,
Yeah.
right, to an extent, and I trust medicine,
Sure.
right?
Why you trust them numbers, but you don't trust the numbers about
Because
COVID?
of, because
It was
of what's
just
your name again?
She did.
Because of what she did said that if I get a shark bite, but I go in and I had COVID, right?
Yeah.
I may be cured from COVID, but it's still in my system. It can be shown that I had it.
Right.
They counting that as a number.
Is that a number?
No, that's not a number.
How do you know? How do you know?
That's how they count.
How do you
That's
know?
they count numbers, though.
Are you in that field?
Listen.
That's 4
It's
to
all
1
about
saying
funding.
yeah.
That's how they
That's
get
what we
the
said.
funding.
That's my thing. That's why I don't trust the COVID numbers, because if
Yeah.
you follow the money,
Yeah.
and I believe what he said that if you have a heart disease and you die of a heart attack, but if you have tested positive for COVID and they can prove it, they're gonna say he died with COVID. He has COVID. It's gonna be an asterisk.
Let me share something with you, just to clarify.
You gotta tell me how you know though. Cite your
I'm
source.
going to tell you because I spent 20 years working in
Sure.
HIV prevention.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
and so in my work in HIV prevention, if you contracted HIV, okay, which is again an immuno virus, right?
Correct.
It's going to destroy your immune system.
Correct.
COVID works similar in some ways, okay? that when that happens, your body becomes susceptible to all kind of things.
True.
And so, if you have pre-existing health conditions,
Absolutely.
heart disease, diabetes, whatever it may be, and COVID, and then you contract COVID, it's going to accelerate things in terms of, and maybe exacerbate, make it worse.
I'm in
for you.
agreement with you on that.
So we're in agreement about
Yeah.
that. So when we talk about that in HIV language, we say, oh, people die from HIV or AIDS-related symptoms, complexes, issues around that. The same thing applies with COVID.
Let me ask you this, then.
Just hear me
Yeah,
first.
go ahead.
So the same thing applies with COVID. If you have pre-existing health issues and you contract COVID, it's going to make some of those situations worse for you.
But what are they going to denote? This is my thing. If I had a heart condition, precondition, and I attract HIV, let's use that.
Okay.
And I die because of HIV or because of the heart. My heart fails. Are they going to say I died because of HIV or I had a cardiac arrest? How are they going to denote that on my death certificate or in the hospital
So
notes?
again, as we're talking about this with COVID, what happens is
How are they going to say I died?
I'm telling you.
Okay.
It's going to be a related condition.
To HIV?
To HIV. It can, because it could have accelerated that. The same thing is what we're talking
So
about.
okay,
with
so
COVID.
we're all saying the same thing. Those numbers are what they are. Let's say the number is 780 million, but we're saying that
79. But yeah,
70 what?
9.
79 million. But we're saying the same thing. That yes, you could have had this cardiac condition, and you came in contact with COVID. COVID accelerated the cardiac situation, so you died because of complexities to COVID.
Exactly.
But really, if
It's
my
not
heart,
really.
but if my heart was good, right?
Uh-huh.
Or you know what I'm saying, and I just died of COVID, you don't see that being different? COVID killed you versus COVID and heart attack.
But COVID's not necessarily.
COVID's not killing people?
Let's be
It's
clear.
enhancing, huh? It's enhancing.
COVID is a virus, right?
Is it the killer?
And so COVID doesn't necessarily kill you, but it's what it starts to make happen in your body
Because of the compromised
because
immune system.
because
But
of
that's
how it
what I'm
affects
saying.
not
But
only
that's
your
what we're
immune
thinking,
system.
that COVID's killing. That's the word.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
It's
why I
COVID.
wanted to clear.
It's COVID.
It's
It's
COVID.
COVID.
But
It's
you
COVID.
you gave me clarity
Yeah,
on
it's
that.
COVID.
We think
It's
COVID's
COVID.
killing
Yeah, it's
you.
COVID.
Yeah.
The images eventually became very similar to what we saw last.
A clear message of